Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM and AM 630. WMAL.
8:37 on WMAL. Gang's all here. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, and Larry Kudlow is on the line. Host of the Kudlow Report on CNBC. You can check it out 7 o'clock every night, and also the Larry Kudlow radio show here on WMAL on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
Well, we're seeing
$3.57.
Yeah, that's what I was going to start with. $3.57. It's already over $4 in parts of California. Looks like it's going up. Can the economic recovery continue with this trend, and can the Dow and the markets continue to go up if gas is going to hit $4?
Well, that's a good question. I think the answer is yes. I wouldn't be so sure about $4. I know that's become sort of the drumbeat, but there has to be a reason for this. It's not immaculate conception, and I don't think gasoline prices go up unless the underlying price of West Texas or European crude goes up. In other words, if there's going to be a spike, it'll probably come from Iran. Okay, I think that's the source of this. So far, it's been a creep, not a spike. And so creeps don't interrupt the stock market, and creeping gasoline won't interrupt this mini rally in the economy. I guess that's my best take. If you got a spike, like a $10 jump in crude or more, which we had, by the way, a little less than a year ago, that would be more threatening to the economy and the stock market.
But there's the possibility that they could still see a spike. Is there not?
Yeah. There's the possibility. There's also the possibility prices could ease off.
Yeah, right.
In other words, this is a tricky thing. And I think conservatives are rooting for a gasoline spike. Am I right about that? My fellow brothers and sisters?
I know this conservative's
the
not.
Obama mini recovery. I don't know. I would just say let's watch this thing and see what the hostilities around Iran look like. I think that's really the key point right now. And I'm not so sure. Let me just say I am not so sure, because I think the Saudis will put more oil on the market. And it would be nice if the United States was drill, pipe. That would be good, too.
Yeah. How much credit and or blame do you think presidents deserve for gas prices? During the Bush administration, of course, it was a 24-hour screaming fest about how it was all his fault. Right. Obama far less likely to be linked to this, but it does affect his approval numbers.
Of course it does. And, it's interesting on that. Gasoline prices and oil prices have a lot to do with the dollar. That's kind of what people don't get or talk about. If you have a plunging dollar, and this is what you had when the Fed did QE2 in the spring of last year, you have a plunging dollar, all commodity prices, which are priced in dollars, are going to spike. And that's going to drive up gasoline and every other darn thing. And that is going to hurt the economy. It's like a big fat tax on the economy. That's probably the best way to think about this. Right now, and by the way, that happened, the dollar was collapsing in the spring and summer of 2008. And that really damaged. That was one of the biggest things that hurt the economy besides the mortgage problem and the financial meltdown. Maybe it led to the financial meltdown in no small way. Right now, I just want to note the exchange rate of the dollar is relatively stable, and gold prices are relatively stable. So I don't see this fantastic collapse of the greenback that's going to drive up oil. Now, if the hostilities regarding Iran really get red hot, that would do it also. You had a little bit of that effect last spring and summer when you had the Arab Spring, right? I mean, there was fears. It was mostly West Texas. It was mostly European crude. It was mostly Brent crude. It wasn't so much West Texas. But oil is a world market, so that was affected. Right now, I'm kind of keeping my powder dry, if you want to know the truth. I don't see the conditions here for a spike.
All right, I want to talk about Dow 13 Thou. Is it possible? When will we? People think it is possible. When will we see it? If we see it, and is it supportable? In other words, are the underpinnings of the economy sound enough to support what we've seen in the run-up of the Dow of late?
I think they are. And I think, again, this is mostly, I say again, we've talked about this, this is mostly about profits. And profits have been very strong. Now, they're a little slower in their growth rate than they were earlier in the business cycle. But profits are more than enough, given relatively low interest rates, to sustain higher price earnings multiples. And so, therefore, I think the market will pass 13,000 Dow. I think the state of the economy is good enough to sustain a rising stock market. I'm not so sure you're going to melt up to 14,000 Dow. I'm a little worried about, you got tax hikes down the road, and you got all these things that could come into play, and the market will discount 6 or 9 months ahead. But right now, I don't see why the market can't continue to improve. It's not going to necessarily happen every day. You had solutions, at least for the moment, of the Greek business, the Greek debt business, so that takes something off the table or removes a barrier in the short run. And I think the economy's in 3% shape. It's not 5 or 6%, but it's in 3% shape with good earnings. What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it. I did see the Washington Post has a headline that I believe has been in the Washington Post probably 15,000 times before. Deal reached on Greek bailout.
Right.
Is that real?
Ta-da!
For the moment. They got their latest tranche. What is it, about $170 billion?
$172 billion, it says, yeah.
I mean, that's for the moment, right? I mean, I don't think this has ever been about Greece, per se. It's about whether there's going to be a catastrophic meltdown, Armageddon of the European banking system, okay? That's really important. And whether that would cause a tsunami to come and affect our banks, and we would not be immune to that. But I think the odds of that are pretty low. I must say, I think the odds of that are pretty low. So, I'm relatively bullish. I'm not as bullish as we were 1,000 points ago on the Dow, just because it's 1,000 points. But I don't see what the big problems are in the near term. I think things are going along swimmingly.
You're making my day, Larry.
Let me ask you, put your political hat on for a second on our last question. Did you tweet out that if you think if Romney loses Michigan, it's time to look for another alternative? Did I read that right?
I may have. I do these tweet things. It's really...
That's always my answer on tweets, too, Larry.
Did I say that? I forgot.
Mary Catherine, tweets are like mental impulse searches. You think of something, and the hand moves, and it's almost involuntary. But I would say this, in my humble opinion, if Romney loses Michigan, he is in a heap of trouble. Absolutely. On the other hand, am I seeing the polls look, Romney's numbers are creeping back.
Yeah, it's tightening up.
And I don't think Santorum did well enough in his Detroit Economics Club speech to sway the business community. And I think Romney, who has a speech this week, what is it, Tuesday or Wednesday?
It's at the end of the week, I know that, yeah.
And if he gives, hope springs eternal, but if Romney gives a bold plan for jobs and tax reform, for example, I think that would really help him with that crowd and would help move his numbers for victory in Michigan. But if he loses Michigan, wow, that's just going to look terrible. It's his home state or his second or third or
whatever I'm saying.
Whatever. All politicians have three.
But I think he'd be in a heap of trouble. Absolutely. Those calls would go out to Governor McDonnell and Governor Christie and Chairman Ryan. And whether those calls are answered is quite a different matter.
All right, Larry. It's a pleasure to have you on as always. Thanks very much.